Hey everybody, this is E from E's Workout Channel. What's up? How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? Today I'm gonna do another video. This video is gonna be a little different too from the norm. I'm gonna tell y'all a little story. After this video, I think I'm gonna go back to the health videos. I'm probably gonna tell y'all about another supplement I use. And then I'm probably going to do an anime video or two. Maybe, possibly do a UFC video. But I'm definitely going to do some more health videos, anime videos. If y'all want me to do any workout videos, just say the word. And I can always do some more workout videos. I got some new exercises I've been trying out. And I'd be happy to tell y'all about them if that's what y'all want. So just let me know in the comments, hit me up, and I'll be happy to answer you. So without further ado, let me get ready to go ahead and tell y'all this story. And just so y'all know, I have actually written this story down, and I haven't worked on it in a while. I was kind of focused on the other book that I had written, Natural Cures That Work Immediately. I published that book. This book could possibly be next, but I do have a couple of other books I'm working on as well, so we'll have to wait and see. But all right, let me get ready to go ahead and tell y'all this story. I'm curious to see who can follow along, whose is going to make sense to, and who it won't. But anyway, here we go. Once upon a time, there was nothingness. Nothing at all. No light, no sound, no anything. Now, eventually, this nothingness began to form into a void, a very large void, because the nothingness was very expansive, great, And as the nothingness became this void, inside of the void, there was this, we'll call it a star. Even though a star may not be the right word, that's what we're going to call it. But it was far bigger, far bigger, and far grander, far brighter than any star that has ever existed in our universe. Far bigger than the biggest star that we know of. I mean, just thousands of times larger. So, inside of the void, the only thing that existed was this massive giant star. Now, eventually, one day, the star began to collapse on itself. And as the star collapsed on itself, a being came forth from the star. And for now, we'll call this being G. So G came forth from the star, and G noticed in the void that it was completely dark. There was nothing. You couldn't see anything. The only light that existed was from him and the leftover materials from the star that he had just came from. So G decided he needed to do something about this. So G started creating little spheres of light, little circular spheres of light to start illuminating this void. Now, it took G a while to make just one sphere because, it took a lot of energy to create these spheres. And so G started working on the spheres. And after time passed and, he's working but not really making a lot of headway, he started thinking to himself, man, I could really use some help here with this. And, he was feeling kind of lonely because he was the only creature in existence. Nothing else existed within the void except for him. Now, one thing also that G noticed that as he created these spheres, that after he created them, they would excrete the excess materials. And these excess materials were in the shape of spheres. And these materials began rotating around the spheres that he had created, the orbs of light. And he took that and he just noticed it. But then he decided he was going to take that leftover material that he came from, and he was going to create another being, someone that could help him out, and kind of keep him company, someone he could talk to as well. So G went ahead, took that leftover material, and he created another being. And we'll call this being L. And G had tremendous affection for L because he had created L, and now he had somebody that he could deal with and talk to. And L also had tremendous affection for G because he was, in all essence, his father. He had created him. He was his father. So L and G, went back to work and creating these spheres of light to illuminate the void. And now, they could get more work done because there was two of them. And so they went on, creating these spheres of light or orbs of light, whatever you want to call them. And G also noticed, and L noticed, that as they created the spheres, like I said, they would eject the excess particles and the particles would start to revolve, around the orbs. So now, there were quite a few of these orbs with the spheres floating around them, and they became known as star systems. The orbs became known as the stars. The void became known as the universe. And these orbs that had the materials floating around them became what we would call star systems or solar systems. And G and L went ahead, and kept on creating these stars. So even as it was now two of them, they still weren't making a lot of headway. I mean, they were able to create more of them than when it was just G alone, but still, they hadn't really illuminated a big part of the universe yet. So they both kind of decided that it would be nice if they had somebody else that could help them. If it was three of them instead of two. Now, there was no materials left to create anybody because G had used all of the materials to create L. And they didn't want to use the stars that they had just created because they didn't want to lose any progress in illuminating the universe. So G came up with a plan. He told L to just take it easy for a little bit. Don't worry about creating anything. And when I come back, I'll have some help for us. And I was like, okay, that's fine. How long are you going to be gone? And G was like, I'm not really sure yet, but it shouldn't be very long. And I said, okay. And so they said their goodbyes. And G went on to go find his help. Now, while G was gone, L decided, he would check out the star systems that they had already created. And L noticed that on some of these spheres that rotated around the stars, that there was life developing on some of these spheres. And the life was still simple at this point, but L made note of it. Now we're going to go off to G and him bringing back some help for him and L. So since G had no materials to create any other beings, what G decided to do was to take a being from himself. So G took some energy from himself, and from that energy, he created another being, and we'll call him J. So now we have G, L, and J. So after G created J, G had great affection for J just as much, even more, slightly more so than L, because J actually came from him. J was a part of him. In fact, if you think about the term only begotten son, that's what it would apply to, this instance. So G took J from himself, and then G took J back to meet L. And then once L and J met, they both got along great. They all had affection for each other. And these three were the pretty much the fathers, the rulers, the kings of the universe. They were the creators, these three. And they went on to create more and more stars and filled up more and more of the universe. And then on one occasion, El would like to, fly around and look at the stars and the planets. We'll call those spheres that rotate around the stars planets. And he liked to check them out. And he had already noticed before that some life was starting to develop, excuse me, on some of the planets. So as El went back to look at these planets, El noticed that now, this life was pretty complex. And what he saw was that there was wicked life that had developed on some of these planets that were killing and wiping out the peaceful life on the planets. And this upset, El quite a bit. But El couldn't really do anything about it. So El went back to G to let him know what was happening on some of these planets. And L, G, and J talked it out. And they really didn't have time to deal with these incidents on these planets as they were still trying to, light up the universe. And they were like, and there was still a lot of work to be done. So they all decided they would create a being to deal with these life forms that were, popping up on these planets, the evil ones. So they decided to create a being that could deal with it. And they all put all of their energy together, all of their power together, and they all created another being. And this being they created was a warrior. They created a warrior. And this warrior was the first angel. The first angel known as the Archangel. This was the Archangel, and his name was Michael. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop the story right there, primarily because I don't want anybody to steal my story. And even if you steal what you've heard so far, you can only go so far with it because you don't know the rest of it. And I do have, plans for how I'm going to tell the rest of this story. Anybody who's interested in telling this story with me, by all means, hit me up, DM me, message me. We can talk if you're serious and I feel you're knowledgeable enough to help me. By all means, I could use a partner. We could write this book together, or the story that I will definitely get made into a book and published. I could, definitely use a partner if anybody is interested that watches this video. If the story interested you at all, and you're an author yourself, or you know how to tell a story, by all means, hit me up. Like I said, I do have plans for how I want the story to be told, but I will accept help from a partner or partners. Hit me up, and if anybody hits me up and it can work, we can definitely make this happen. Now, also, I wanted to talk about another video I did. It was my video about Adam and Eve. And basically, I said the story was about Adam and Eve being tricked by Satan into Eve having sex with Satan, and then Eve tricking Adam into having sex, and them feeling the need to clothe themselves and cover their private parts because of what they had just done. And that's where Cain came from, and Abel. That was pretty much the story. You can watch the video yourself if you want greater detail. But as I thought about that story, this hit me as I was making other videos, and I may have an alternate version of that story. In fact, I do have an alternate version. And this version of actually, I shouldn't say version. Let me say interpretation. My other interpretation of the story goes like this, whereas I don't believe they ate fruit. In fact, let me say, I don't believe that I believe that the serpent was symbolical, and I also believe that the fruit was symbolical. Now, I believe that the serpent was symbolical of Satan himself. in all his glory. And I believe, in the first instance, I believe that the fruit referred to sex. In this instance, I'm not sure what the fruit refers to be honest. I haven't figured that part out. But I do believe it does refer to them gaining knowledge, the knowledge of the gods in the Bible. It says, see, they have become like us, knowing good and bad. And I do believe in the other interpretation, it actually does refer to them gaining the knowledge of the gods, meaning the knowledge of warfare, the knowledge of herbs, the knowledge of medicine, magic, everything, whatever. And basically what that meant was, what that would have meant is that they became the enlightened humans on the earth. God's chosen people were more enlightened and knowledgeable than the other people that were already here. Or that would be the case, as Adam and Eve had children and their descendants. And the reason why I say that and why I think this story could also have a different meaning is because they clothe themselves. Yes, that is one of the two most important points of the entire story. The first was whatever they partake, that they had partaken in, whether it was really eating fruit or something else or having sex or whatever it was. That was the first major point. And the second major point of the story is them clothing themselves. And the reason why that's so important in either instance, in the first instance, because they were covering their private parts, they were ashamed of what they had done. But in this instance, it's more of a case of them clothing themselves to differentiate themselves or separate themselves from the other animals and the other humans. And what I mean by that is, animals don't wear clothes. So in this instance, that would have meant that God hadn't created them all that special in the first place if they didn't have any knowledge, or they didn't have, the knowledge of all things possibly. But the fact is they didn't even have the knowledge to clothe themselves. And in a sense, they were just like the other animals. And once they attained that knowledge, that's when they separated themselves from the other humans or animals that were already here. And that also would indicate that God himself would be clothed, as would all of the other heavenly creatures. They would be clothed. That's what it indicates, that, clothing seems to indicate a sense of intelligence because, like I said, animals don't clothe themselves. And I'm assuming that whatever other humans were here didn't clothe themselves either. And Adam and Eve, once they became enlightened, that's when they clothed themselves. So in the first story, I said that Adam was sent here to be pretty much the god of the planet. I don't know if I could say that in a second interpretation because he evidently didn't have knowledge or he didn't have enough knowledge. And then once they ate that fruit or whatever what activity they had partaken in, that's when they had the knowledge of God and the others. And that's when the story, you could look at the story as saying that's when humans became Homo sapiens, or that's when, God's chosen people, the Israelites, became more enlightened than any other people on the earth, smarter, more knowledgeable. So that's my other interpretation. If anybody has any questions, by all means, hit me up. I'm happy to answer questions anytime. I talk to all of y'all. Anybody who's knowledgeable enough to ask me, I'll be more than happy to answer you. Please like, comment, subscribe. Everybody, I love y'all, my subscribers. My subscriber family's not that big, but it's getting bigger, and I appreciate it. Anybody who watches the video, I love you. Mwah. And everybody, please live a happy, holistic, safe, healthy life. Peace.